Hello everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. We are up and running with our third podcast, and this time we have a very interesting topic for you, and arguably also the most talked about topic. Yes, it's mental health. And today we have a special guest. Her name is Dr. Gayathri Balsubramian. She is a PhD in animal assisted therapy for children with autism from University of Mumbai. She is the head of psychology department at Swami Vivekanand College of Arts, Science and Commerce. She has 25 years of experience of teaching, counseling and other subjects at graduation level. She also has a few years of practice dealing with adults and assessment and diagnosis of children. So firstly, ma'am, let me welcome you to this event of Rotaract Club of Bombay Uptown. I'm
Hi
today
everyone, thank you.
we hope that we get a lot of information from you so that we can learn on this very important topic of mental health. Let me begin by asking you uh, about your practice as a therapist. So you are a certified psychologist and you've been practicing for a while. So can you tell us about your specialization and what is the process of being a psychotherapist?
Okay, yeah. So thank you for having me here, and it's a joy to be, part of an exercise where we are actually talking about mental health, because that's something which has been ignored as far as our Indian subcontinent is concerned. Somewhere I feel that we really do not look at mental health as being important. So just one slight correction, my PhD is in psychology. The area that I have worked on is animal assisted therapy. I am not a certified animal assisted therapist. Yes, and the certified psychologist actually refers to the RCI recognition that we have to apply for, which is mandatory, but we still have people yet to kind of get into that mode of, it's not licensing, but it just gives us a registration as a therapist or a psychologist. So my specialization is in clinical psychology. So I've done my master's from Mumbai University, and way back, I will not name you the year, then you will kind of poke fun at me. So I'm quite senior in the field. And I've been practicing off and on. After completing my master's in psychology with clinical as a specialization, it's basically an area where you deal with people who have mental disorders and serious mental health issues. And we acquire training in that course for diagnosis as well as identifying treatment for serious mental disorders. So I practiced for a while, then I got into teaching. So primarily, my role is in academics. I've been teaching for many years. So yeah, that's my background as far as my qualification and practice is concerned.
Great.
There is like a different term that is psychiatrist. So how is it different from psychologist, and what are the key aspects that differentiate the two?
Okay, so let me first tell you about the similarity, and then I will tell you about the difference. Okay, similarity is a psychiatrist and a psychologist. Okay, more so a clinical psychologist, not industrial or social or other subfields of psychology, but primarily clinical and counseling psychology. The area of work for both of them is mental health. So a psychiatrist also works with people who have mental health problems or issues, and a psychologist or a counselor also works with people who have mental health problems or issues. The main difference is a psychiatrist is a medical professional. Okay, his training of looking at mental health problems, like you may have heard terms like depression, schizophrenia, paranoia, manic depressive. Abhi to काफी आजकल चर्चा भी हो रहा है mental health, and quite loosely I find people are using these labels. Mood swing हो गया तो manic depressive बोल देते हैं. So anyway, that apart, a psychiatrist looks at mental health from the biological and medical point of view. So he looks at mental health issues coming about because of certain biological processes. वो कौन सा movie है? Munna by MBBS, chemical locha. So their work area is to treat mental disorders by treating the chemical locha. So they give you medication like antidepressants, anti-anxiety, or maybe for antipsychotic if there is reality orientation problem. So they are allowed to prescribe medications for these conditions as a treatment method. A psychologist or a counselor, on the other hand, does not have a medicine degree.
Since we're on this topic, I also mean to ask you this question: that is there the concept of severity involved when we're considering a psychiatrist and a psychologist? So, would you say that a person who is severely mentally ill should consult a psychiatrist instead of a psychologist, or the other way around?
Severe mental illness को हम कैसे identify करेंगे? Okay, it comes from there. So person who is, so मेरा mood सुबह बहुत खुश था और शाम को होते होते थोड़ा dull हो गया, mood change हो गया है. Is that meaning that I have manic depressive psychosis, or is it a normal mood swing, or is it problematic mood swing? Okay, see, these are the questions. So when we talk about severe mental illnesses, it affects by definition one of the aspects of mental illnesses and not mental health issue. Okay, if we can use that slight difference in term, illnesses affect our daily functioning. So if I'm clinically depressed, not just depressed, अरे यार बहुत depressed हूँ मैं, not just that dot depressed हूँ मैं, but if I'm clinically diagnosed with depression, then not only is my mood up and down, mood difficulty, but it also not only behaviorally but also biologically it affects. So the neurochemical balance in the brain gets awry, or there is an imbalance which is associated with the mood or behavioral symptoms that you see with severe mental illnesses. So a psychiatrist would treat the biological part of it. So you may have heard terms of जब वो मुन्ना भाई MBBS ने बोला, मुन्ना भाई ने बोला chemical लोचा. There are 2-3 neurochemicals that we talk about: dopamine, serotonin, epinephrine, norepinephrine. Meaning these are some of the neurotransmitters that are involved in overall not only the biological functions but also emotional functions. So we don't know. It's like a chicken and egg. Depression के वजह से chemical imbalance होता है या chemical imbalance precedes depression is not yet very clear. Meaning you have evidence for both. So the psychiatrist treats it medically by giving you medication which will increase the required or decrease the neurotransmitters to bring it to a balance. Whereas a psychologist simultaneously will work with it at the mind level. Mind matlab thoughts, beliefs, emotional regulation. So if the person is too depressed to even, totally lack of motivation, then he may talk to him in a manner that elicits a little bit of enthusiasm. So the approach that both of them are different. So you can't say that severe mental illnesses will be treated by psychiatrists and not by psychologists. Both of them have a role to play, but they will be addressing two different aspects of the same problem.
With the help of animals, that is the animal assisted therapy. So can you shed some light on that?
Animal assisted therapy is a therapeutic modality. It is used, it has been practiced in India. That's what I realized when I did research in that area. It has been practiced in India for more than 10 to roughly 12 to 15 years. It is not part of our academics. You can look at it akin to a kind of super specialty. It is one of the therapeutic methods. Just like malaria के लिए एक tablet हो सकता है, दूसरा भी हो सकता है. So that's one of those types. And there we use, see, somewhere inherently humans and animals, they share a bond. There is an evolutionary connection. If you look back into history as well as evolutionary history, that definitely humans and animals share a bond. So this therapeutic modality is based on the premise that when we have difficulties, emotional or regulation problems, or we have these kind of difficulties, the bond that we feel with another animal species somehow can help us to get out of it. So it's also part of what I'm talking about, is also part of the broader framework of humans feeling connected with nature. So it's part of that we all living beings are kind of share, a connection. So it tries to use that connection to bring about a change. So typically an animal therapy session, there are some people who have fish tank at home, and when you look at the fish just moving around in the fish tank, hyperactivity automatically comes down. एक तो आप उसको track करोगे, so it is a fun thing for you. So imagine a child who is very bouncy and does not sit. So he'll keep tracking it. शांत तो बैठता है, 5 मिनट एक जगह पे खड़ा रहता है वो. अदरवाइज उसके माँ को उसको पकड़ के बैठ बोलना पड़ता है. लेकिन एक फिश को अगर वो देखता है तो he is very curious. Okay, so he'll look at that. And also those who have a lot of anxiety, when they observe such calming things, their body tends to calm down. See, so this is how you identify and you work with animals and the humans. The interaction between them is facilitating change in the human. The animal is also trained to act in particular ways in this framework. So I can't take any animal and take him to a session and say, abhi AT chalega, pet therapy chalega. No. The animal goes through a rigorous training of around 6 months minimum. Basic command training, plus children with special needs will come and they'll hold the fur of the dog. And now dog's natural reaction is to bite. But here, safety of animal and safety of human is to be, ethical standards have to be maintained. So the animal is trained to tolerate or to show more appropriate reaction of getting up and walking away. So this is how it's an active, dynamic, therapeutic process.
That's amazing. I mean, I know it's like a very slow process, but when it eventually happens, it's worth every minute of it.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, there are, if anybody is interested in this, they can look at deltasociety.org.
How can we help our peers if they do not share everything with us?
Sure. Good question, because I think also considering the COVID times, this is a very important area that we really need in terms of as much as support that we can give and as much support that we can receive. It's a very, very important area. So when we talk about mental health symptoms, meaning I'm differentiating here between somebody who is having an issue and somebody who is having a serious issue. You can think about it like that. So typically, if I look at, say, if I take depression as an example, the WHO and other statistics, that have been looked at, census data. I think there was also a publication by National Institute for Mental Health Neurosciences, NIMHANS. They did a study in 15-16 across, I think, 12 states of India, and they found depression as being the most prevalent mental health condition, such that 14 out of every 100 individuals have a qualifiable clinical depression. Okay, they have a qualifiable clinical depression. That is the prevalence of this condition. Okay, and even WHO reflects these statistics across different countries. So yes, so having stated that, if I find that my friend, say, over a period of time is gradually withdrawing, is not, so being so much in touch, is beginning to give me excuses, nahi re wo tha, nahi aaj mood nahi hai, aaj nahi karunga. So where I think that as a friend or as a colleague or even relative, I think that this is not usual for him or her to behave like that. ओके सो ये यूजुअली ऐसा नहीं करता है, क्योंकि जब हम बात कर रहे हैं इट इज मोर अबाउट क्लोज फ्रेंड्स. तो हमारे क्लोज फ्रेंड्स जो पिछले 4-5 साल से अगर हम लोग साथ में हैं, तो हम सभी को एक एक आइडिया हो जाता है कि ये किस तरीके का बंदा या बंदी है, व्हाट इज देयर जनरल स्टाइल ऑफ फंक्शनिंग. सो इफ आई फाइंड दैट अ पर्सन इज बिहेविंग क्वाइट डिफरेंटली फ्रॉम हिज जनरल style of functioning, that kind of can be an indicator as a lay person for me to look, oh, is something happening. So normally what would you, कुछ problem है क्या हो गया, आजकल तो मिलता नहीं है, you don't come online, you are not attending lectures, पहले क्लास में इतना बात करता था अभी नहीं करता है, कुछ हुआ है क्या. That's the natural thing we will ask. The person may say, may share or may not share. Okay, the person is sharing, then it kind of, you can actually ask if you know, if the person needs help, you can make a judgment about whether the person needs help. If he's saying हाँ रे आजकल मुझे कुछ भी करने का मन नहीं करता है, हमेशा मैं पता नहीं क्या ख्यालों में खोया रहता हूँ, मैं क्या सोचता हूँ मालूम नहीं, देखा तो इतना टाइम चला जाता है, पढ़ने का मन नहीं करता है, खाने की इच्छा नहीं होती, नींद तो लगता ही नहीं है। देखो कल रात को मैं सोने की कितनी कोशिश की, लेकिन 6:30 तक मैं जगा था और नींद ही नहीं आ रही है। कितना भी कोशिश किया मैंने, ये करके देखा, वो करके देखा, फिर फाइनली मैं फोन पे बैठ लिया और पिक्चर के ऊपर पिक्चर देख रहा था या सीजन के ऊपर सीजन देख रहा था। सो फ्रॉम द पर्सन्स नरेशन यू नो दैट द पर्सन हिमसेल्फ रिकॉग्नाइजेस कि व्हाट इज हैपनिंग विथ हिम इज नॉट, he is also finding it different. So when such conversation happens, that's the time that you need to probably seek help or entertain the possibility that the person may need some kind of a mental health support. Okay, if the person denies it, then see, I personally believe you can't kind of control anyone. Okay, you can express your concern, so you can share with the person how it is affecting you in terms of how you are feeling worried about him or her, and that person नहीं, तुमको ऐसे ही आसान, तुम अपना देख लो, kind of, you know, you don't have to worry about me, I'm perfectly all right. But if you do notice that the person is withdrawn, the person is kind of isolating himself or herself, the person's performance and interaction in certain things is reducing, academics are dropping down, missing of, you know, academics is happening, which is out of ordinary, then you probably can talk about it with another adult in your life, or share it with some, maybe either a common friend or maybe a teacher whom kind of, you know, is a trusted individual, or also you can maybe just connect with your doctor, general practitioner, if you have that kind of relationship, and check with them, yes, aisa ho raha hai, is this something to be concerned about?
So what I've seen so far is that guys and their mental health is not taken very seriously by other guys only, and sometimes they find themselves very alone and they do not have someone to vent it out to, and I think that's where it begins, and sooner or later it has been normalized by
बचपन से ही हमको ये एक्सप्रेस नहीं करना चाहिए, ये बहुत स्ट्रांगली माइंड में हो जाता है. तो एज वी ग्रो अप, ठीक है, वी probably my generation, if I look at it, we have worked around it, and maybe at the age of 30-40 we realize, oh अच्छा वो ऐसा था, ऐसा भी कर सकते थे. सो ज्ञानोदय अगर हम बोलेंगे तो हमको बहुत लेट आया है, लेकिन फॉर्चुनेटली आज के जमाने में देयर इज लॉट मोर टॉक हैपनिंग अबाउट पेरेंटिंग, लॉट मोर टॉक अबाउट द इम्पोर्टेंस ऑफ इमोशंस एंड हाउ टू आइडेंटिफाई, वी टॉक अबाउट इमोशनल इंटेलिजेंस. तो ये सब होने की वजह से the knowledge and the awareness component is higher. Okay, so if you were asked to ask me today, can I accept that these difficulties, or you know, as because we were talking about, say for example, a male in his 20s. Okay, it's not just women, but male in his 20s. I do agree, or I do feel that males go through a different kind of repression and suppression, if I may use the word suppression, compared to women. The kind of expectations that we have from boys and men is different from the expectations that we have from girls and women. However, girls go through a different kind of, you know, a power game where they are the you know, subdued ones, but male se expectation hai ki aapko you know, problem solving karna hai. So there's a lot of expectation to perform, achieve, even take charge. Girls are not expected to take charge, so but boys are expected to take charge. And if there is a guy who is finding it difficult to take charge because he's afraid, very strictly he is not allowed to express that. Okay, so I feel the kind of restriction, the quality of restriction, if I may use the term, is more stricter for boys than girls. I know there might be people who disagree with this, but I'm not talking about women not being the subdued lot. Definitely, as a gender, women have been suppressed and they have not been empowered, which is why we talk about women's empowerment. But we have not looked at the male psyche. Men also require empowerment to acknowledge the softer side of themselves.
Exactly.
इतने सालों में आपके जमाने में शायद थोड़े एक दो और ये मेट्रोसेक्सुअल मैन एंड ये कॉन्सेप्ट्स आते हैं, लेकिन मेरे बचपन में एक रेमंड का एड आता था जहां पे मेल का सॉफ्टर साइड दिखाया जाता था, जहां पे वो एक छोटे बच्चे को पकड़ के वो he is putting the child to sleep. That used to be the only ad. All other ads were where male is shown as macho, taking charge, doing things, achieving, and the girls or women are shown in the more softer. So I feel men also need to be empowered to acknowledge the softer emotion and softer side of themselves.
So now moving on to your teaching career. So you've been teaching for 25 long years. So how was your experience in that?
So currently I feel I'm a dinosaur. I belong to the dinosaur age, nearing extinction. But I still, as you very rightly said, being in the teaching profession, my heart remains young, and I don't want to become extinct. I love this profession, and what gives me greatest joy is to be able to facilitate the kindling of the the glint in the eye when a student understands something or
Yeah.
has an idea. So that really keeps me going.
I want you to give a message to our viewers, or a code to live by in terms of mental health, like how to stay healthy and what are the ways there are.
So first and foremost, I would really say that mental health cannot be taken for granted and assumed to be present, just like we take care of our physical health, okay, by eating nutritious food, keeping a lifestyle which has adequate sleep, and we overdo things, but we also then take time out. Similarly, we have to look at mental health as an entity to be maintained. It cannot be taken for granted. As far as tools of maintaining one's mental health, what I have found useful, and I keep telling others, is develop your pause button. Gradually through your own experience, learn to pause, learn to step back, learn not to take things too personally. The life is not always about us. Life is about others too. So if somebody is talking nastily to me, it may not always be about me or how could he speak to me. It's about his expression. It may be wrong, but you don't need to take it on yourself to change it. So acknowledging that I am responsible for my own happiness, I think would be a thing that I learned the hard way, and I would like to say to others.